Good morning, everyone. I'm sure you can tell behind me, these two tractors are still ready to work and they have a lot to do. Some minor changes have been going on and they're actually pretty easy to show. So the 8030 is now hooked up to a chisel plow, and the reason for that is that the field cultivator is just not a stout enough piece of machinery to be able to cut through a lot of the roots and stuff like that we have going on, at least on this half of the field over here. This eastern half just doesn't have, for whatever reason, when they cleared it, a lot of the brush and the saplings, they just really took off on that side. Whereas that side was cleared and actually seemed to be smoothed out, and a lot of grasses were trying to grow. Some spots they were actually kind of just shadowed out. But let me show you why the chisel plow is so much more helpful. What are you doing? Now, the chisel plow is supposed to be an 11 shank chisel plow. However, one of those shanks was busted off whenever he bought it. The other one, I actually broke the bolt to, and it ripped that one off, so it's down to 9. Not a big deal though. It pulls really easy now for the 8030. I am staying in 2-wheel drive, not going in 4-wheel drive, and the biggest reason for that is that we have a lot of rocks and other items in this ground that's very hard already. We don't want to break off any more shanks. We don't want to break any bolts, all that good stuff. So that's why we're going to stay in 2-wheel drive, because the chances of us having enough traction in 2-wheel drive on loose dirt already is pretty minimal. So the chisel plow is able to go about, we're probably 6 or 8 inches in. We are going quite a bit lower than what we originally wanted, but this is the reason for that. So all this is just junk that's getting pulled up. Not that, that's an actual live tree branch. But this right here, this is a root that's getting pulled up. Just a lot of riprap that goes through the ground that needs to be kind of removed. Now, once it gets pulled up to the top, like you see all this stuff right here, this little stuff, the little roots, not a big deal. Those are going to stay on the top. They're still going to get disked over and everything, and pretty much we're going to go about our day. No change. What's going to change a lot is over here, we got, well, yeah, right here. So we've got some spots where it's actually pulling up the root itself. So like the root ball from the tree that used to be there. So that's one of them right there. Now this is going to be something we'll have to solve with the skid steer, because we're not going to be able to pull that up by hand. But it gets it broken up to where we can actually see it. We see where it's at. We know what needs to be done with it. This end over here is pretty well done, and it really just needs disked. This end over here, I have to go over a second time with the chisel plow. We do need to cross hatch it. And what I mean by cross hatches is that, so for instance, if I'm running north-south with my first pass with the chisel plow, the next pass that I make over that same ground needs to be at an offset angle from that. So if I'm going north-south, which would be 0 degrees, I'm gonna go to about a 5-degree angle, maybe even a 10, depending on how bad or how rough it is, in order to break that ground up more and make it to where we can easily get all that stuff pulled out, get everything tilled up well so we can level it out easily. Then finally, we've got this drag right here. We need to hook that up behind the disc, but all that's gonna come in a little bit. So we're gonna get some chisel plowing done. That's gonna be the majority of our morning probably. And then once we get that done, we are going to transition over and start disking. First thing I gotta do though is I gotta replace this shank. Or not the shank, sorry, the shoe. I broke the bolts off apparently and lost one. I see you. Uh-oh. couldn't tell by the lack of drone video, it's just so dry and dusty that I just can't get very good video. And it actually goes the same for this. Right now the wind just happens to be blowing out of the south, but who knows how long it'll last. It's the first time it's done it all day. For the most part, it's been chasing me all day. Regardless, we're doing the exact same thing with the disc as we have been with the chisel plows. So we go one direction for the entire field, and then for the second pass across the entire field, we try to offset it at least a 5-degree angle. But with the disc, because we've smoothed it up quite a bit, we actually want to go directly across from it and make a perpendicular crossing just to see how smooth or how rough the field is, and if we need to do more disking or what exactly is required to make this reasonable. So if the field isn't smooth going this way, we're going to see what we need to do to make it to where it is. So whether it's more passes with the disc or even chisel plowing again at this direction and then disking it, we just got to see. The other part is that we have a lot of rocks to pick up. I'm sure you can hear them hitting off the disc right now. Most of them are pretty small and are going to get packed back in. However, we have a lot that need to be picked up, and that's what you've seen the kids doing, and it's also what you've seen Chrissy doing with the skid steer. We have a bucket that we borrowed from Jason. It's a rock bucket. It's basically you can go across the ground and skim it, and you can pick up the rocks. Now that only filters out about 2-inch, maybe 3-inch size rocks. Anything smaller than that falls through a lot. And even then, if it's got, say, like it's only 2 inches wide and it's 7 or 8 inches long, then it still will fall through that gap on the bucket. So still gotta go behind it. But it picks up a lot of them. She's been using that on the areas that are real heavy with rocks, which is not that many, not that much of the field. Probably about a solid third, maybe a little over that. Maybe 2/5 of the field is covered in a lot of rocks. The rest of it's actually just roots that we've pulled up that need to be, picked up. And then what you see me doing with the T-post, I'm marking some stuff, so there's some stumps that we missed. Well, we just didn't know they were there with the dozer, and the chisel plow, it's probably got some of it, but wasn't able to get all of it. So it needs to be pulled up. Anything that's going to do damage to a mower conditioner has to go. And anything that's going to make this uncomfortable or rough has to go. This is absolutely a lot of work to make a hayfield. It's not something that's simple and quick. So I just want to document that to remind myself at a later date, if I think about doing it again, I may want to think harder. But overall, it will be worth it. It's going to be something that will actually be productive and make something out of the land instead of being not wasteful, I guess. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a wooded area. It's good for hunting, good for stuff like that. You could even actually make money off of the timber if you let it get big enough and harvest it, say, every 30 years or something like that. But for us, it just doesn't make sense. We would rather turn it into a hayfield and get something useful out of it for what we could do with it and not have to pay somebody else to do it. Well, I've showed you about all I can. Unfortunately, it's just so dry and dusty here that even as smooth as we've got the field, it still has another step to go, and you'll see that in the next video. But we've done everything we can for the moment. We still got to pick a few more rocks, which we're not going to record that because it's very boring and nobody likes to do it to begin with. So we just want to get it done and over with. But we will be back. The next video, you'll see how we're going to make that field almost highway smooth by simply using a 10-foot roller filled with water. So thanks for watching. Have a blessed week. We'll see you next time.